Welcome to Beyond the Spotlight. I'm Patricia. Today, we take a quiet moment to reflect on the lives of those remarkable souls who once shined so brightly among us. Their passion, artistry, and spirit touched countless hearts. As we remember them, we celebrate the beauty they shared with the world, a legacy that will forever echo through time. Sir Anthony Leote, a distinguished physicist known for his extraordinary contributions to modern science, has died peacefully at his home in Urbana, Illinois, at the age of 87. His work in superconductivity and superfluidity transformed the way scientists understand matter at extreme conditions, helping unlock deeper insights into the fundamental laws of nature. Through years of dedicated research, he built ideas that became cornerstones for later discoveries in condensed matter physics. His efforts were globally recognized in 2003 when he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics, honoring both the brilliance of his findings and his long-standing commitment to advancing knowledge. Alongside his research achievements, he was deeply valued as an educator at the University of Illinois. He had a rare ability to explain complex scientific concepts in a simple and engaging way, making him a source of inspiration for countless students. Many of them pursued successful careers in science, carrying forward his influence into new generations of research and innovation. His passing marks the end of an era, but his legacy continues to thrive through his published work, the scientific paths he opened, and the many minds he shaped during his lifetime. Ernie Anastasis passed away at a hospital in Mount Kisco, New York, at the age of 82, due to pneumonia. For many years, he was a trusted evening news anchor in New York City, known for his calm delivery and clear reporting on stations such as WABC and WCBS. Beyond traditional news, he became known for championing a different kind of journalism focused on optimism and human connection. Through his radio work and later podcasting, he highlighted stories of kindness, resilience, and everyday hope, offering audiences a refreshing contrast to negative headlines. He often spoke about the importance of uplifting news, believing that media should also reflect the lighter and more encouraging side of life. His legacy remains as a broadcaster who brought balance, warmth, and humanity to the news landscape. Colleagues and listeners remember him not only for his professionalism but also for the kindness and steadiness he brought to every broadcast, making him a respected voice across generations in the broadcasting world for many years to come as well. Jerry Lewis was born a century ago, marking the arrival of a performer who would eventually reshape the landscape of American comedy through sheer energy, timing, and emotional range. He became widely recognized not only as a comedian but as a multi-talented entertainer whose work often blended physical humor with heartfelt expression. Films like The Nutty Professor showcased his ability to transform simple comedic setups into memorable, character-driven performances that connected with audiences across generations. His style was bold, expressive, and instantly recognizable, helping him become one of the most influential figures in entertainment during his era. Beyond his work in film and television, Lewis dedicated a significant part of his life to humanitarian efforts, most notably his long association with the Muscular Dystrophy Association. Through years of fundraising and public support campaigns, he helped generate substantial awareness and financial assistance for medical research and patient care. When he passed away at the age of 91, he left behind a legacy that extended beyond entertainment, reflecting both his impact on popular culture and his commitment to charitable work. His influence continues to be felt in comedy and philanthropy alike. Judy Pace passed away peacefully in her sleep in Marina del Rey at the age of 83, leaving behind a body of work that reflected quiet strength, elegance, and steady screen presence. During the 1960s and 1970s, she became a recognizable face on American television, often bringing a grounded warmth and emotional depth to the characters she portrayed. Her performances in series such as The Young Lawyers and Peyton Place helped establish her as a consistent and reliable talent during a transformative era for television storytelling. She also delivered a memorable appearance in the acclaimed television film Brian's Song, which further highlighted her ability to bring sensitivity and realism to emotionally charged roles. Beyond television, her career extended into film, where she appeared in productions including Cotton Comes to Harlem, The Thomas Crown Affair, and Three in the Attic, each adding to her range as a performer capable of adapting across genres. While she was never defined by flashy stardom, her work carried a steady grace that left a lasting impression on audiences. Judy Pace is remembered for her dignified presence on screen and the quiet impact she made across both film and television throughout her career. Melvin Edwards, the American sculptor celebrated for transforming industrial materials into expressive works, has passed away at his home in Baltimore at the age of 88. He was widely regarded as a pioneer who reshaped modern sculpture by giving new emotional depth to steel and found metal. Working with objects such as barbed wire, chains, and discarded tools, he built powerful compositions that carried traces of history and human experience. His most significant body of work, the Lynch Fragments series, explored themes of memory, resilience, and the enduring impact of racial violence in American history. Rather than depicting these ideas directly, he embedded meaning into welded forms that felt both restrained and expressive, inviting reflection through texture and structure. Over decades, his practice influenced generations of contemporary artists and expanded the possibilities of sculpture as a narrative form. Edwards is remembered for turning heavy, industrial materials into symbols of strength and survival, creating works that continue to speak across time. His legacy endures in museums, public collections, and in the ongoing dialogue his art inspires about history, identity, and transformation. The explosion that turned a London boy into a global voice. Rod Stewart's story does not begin with fame, but with momentum that slowly gathers before detonating. Born in post-war London, in a working-class household, he initially dreamed of football rather than music, carrying ambition in a direction entirely separate from the stage. When music finally took hold, it did so through a voice that did not sound trained or polished, but lived in, as if it had already endured decades before recording anything at all. The early days with the Faces and his solo breakthrough transformed that roughness into identity. Maggie May was never engineered as a defining hit, yet it became one of those rare cultural accidents that shift an entire career overnight. Within weeks, he was no longer an emerging artist, but a global presence, simultaneously topping charts in the UK and the United States. That sudden elevation created a psychological turning point. Success was no longer something to chase cautiously, it became something to expand, repeat, and outgrow. From that moment, every album, tour, and public appearance carried the expectation of scale, and once scale becomes normal, anything smaller feels like decline, even when it is not. The era of excess, reinvention, and public identity. The 1970s and early 1980s shaped Rod Stewart into more than a musician. They turned him into an image that existed beyond songs. Blonde hair, flamboyant clothing, tabloid romances, and stadium crowds created a version of him that was constantly visible, constantly interpreted. Fame at that level does not remain private for long. It becomes a shared narrative between artist and audience, one where personal life and performance begin to blur. Criticism arrived alongside admiration. Some saw charisma and authenticity, others saw excess and self-mythology. Yet what defined him most was adaptability. When punk challenged glam rock and disco reshaped expectations, he did not retreat. He shifted direction, even when it meant alienating parts of his original audience. That willingness to change preserved his relevance but also fragmented perceptions of who he was. Each reinvention kept him in motion, but motion comes at a cost. Over time, reinvention can feel less like growth and more like shedding previous selves. The man on stage remained familiar in voice and presence, but the cultural context around him kept changing, forcing him to constantly renegotiate what kind of artist he was supposed to be. Reinvention as survival in a changing industry. By the late 1980s and into the 1990s, the music landscape had shifted again, and the era that once centered stadium rock began to dissolve. New movements emerged that were less interested in glamour and spectacle, and more focused on rawness and disconnection. For artists who had built their identity on large-scale performance, this shift created an identity gap. Rod Stewart was no longer the defining sound of youth culture, but he was far from irrelevant. Instead, he occupied a complicated middle space, too established to be new, too active to be dismissed. His response was not resistance, but strategic transformation. The American Songbook albums marked a decisive turn toward reinterpretation rather than competition. Rather than chasing current charts, he leaned into classics that prioritized longevity over immediacy. Critics were divided, but audiences responded with sustained interest. It was not rebellion anymore. It was adaptation at a different stage of life. What once had been about dominating stages became about preserving presence. In this period, success was no longer measured by cultural dominance, but by endurance, consistency, and the ability to remain audible in a world that had moved its attention elsewhere. Distance, isolation, and the quiet cost of global fame. As fame expanded, geography changed with it, moving between countries, particularly settling for long periods outside the UK, created both comfort and distance. Life in the United States offered privacy and stability in ways that constant media attention in Britain did not, yet it also introduced a quieter form of separation from origin. Fame often creates the illusion of constant connection, but in reality it can produce emotional isolation. Rooms become filtered, interactions become transactional, and trust becomes something carefully rationed. Over decades, that environment reshapes how relationships function. Friends become fewer, conversations become shorter, and authenticity becomes harder to locate. In interviews, Stewart has often reflected on the difference between public perception and private reality, not with bitterness but with clarity. Success at that scale also alters time. While audiences age gradually, the performer exists in a loop of repeated tours, rehearsals, and performances that compress years into cycles. Meanwhile, life outside continues normally, with families growing, parents aging, and ordinary milestones passing without pause. That divergence creates a subtle emotional gap that is difficult to close later in life, even when everything else appears intact. When illness becomes part of the career timeline, health challenges marked a turning point in how Rod Stewart's career was experienced, both by him and by the public. The diagnosis of thyroid cancer in 2000 introduced a vulnerability that contrasted sharply with the image of the unstoppable performer. For a singer, the voice is not just a tool but identity itself, and any threat to it carries existential weight. Surgery near the vocal cords is not merely medical, it is deeply personal, because it affects the medium through which a life has been expressed. Recovery required rebuilding technique and confidence, not just regaining physical strength. Later, prostate cancer added another layer to this narrative, one that he initially kept private before speaking publicly years later to encourage awareness and early detection. These experiences shifted his relationship with time and performance. What once felt automatic became conditional. Each tour, each show, each return to the stage carried awareness that continuation was no longer guaranteed. Survival changed the emotional tone of performance. Applause no longer felt like validation alone, but something closer to gratitude, exchanged between artist and audience. in recognition of shared fragility, aging on stage, and the weight of continuing to perform. By the mid-2020s, Rod Stewart's presence on stage carried a different kind of meaning than it did decades earlier. The physical demands of touring do not disappear with fame, they intensify with age. Illness-related cancellations and reports of exhaustion highlighted the reality that even the most enduring performers are still bound by physical limits. Yet stepping away entirely is not a simple decision. For someone whose identity has been built around performance for more than half a century, stopping is not merely retirement, it is a form of disappearance. The stage becomes more than a workplace, it becomes continuity, structure, and recognition. Moments of fatigue or illness are not just interruptions in a schedule, but disruptions in identity. That is why words like devastated carry more weight than they might for someone with a more conventional career. It reflects not just disappointment, but disconnection from something foundational. Even as doctors recommend slowing down, the pull of performance remains strong, because the alternative is not rest in the ordinary sense, but silence where identity used to be expressed. Family, fatherhood, and the private side of a public life, behind the public image of stadiums and spotlight, exists a far more complex private reality. With 8 children across different relationships and decades of marriage and separation, Rod Stewart's family life reflects the fragmentation that often accompanies prolonged fame. Relationships formed during periods of intense touring and global attention carry pressures that ordinary life rarely produces. Absence becomes routine, and presence becomes intermittent. While financial stability and opportunity are part of that legacy, emotional continuity is harder to maintain across shifting locations and schedules. Later in life, marriage brought a more stable structure, and fatherhood became less about navigating chaos and more about reflection. Public moments involving his children, such as appearances and tributes, reveal a softer dynamic that contrasts with earlier decades of tabloid visibility. Yet, the passage of time cannot rewrite earlier absences or missed moments. Children grow within the orbit of fame, whether they choose it or not, inheriting narratives shaped by media as much as by memory. That dual inheritance is one of the quiet costs of long-term celebrity, where personal relationships exist alongside public interpretation. The industry moves on, even when the artist does not. Music history does not pause for individual careers. As genres shift and audiences change, even the most established figures find themselves repositioned. The rise of grunge in the early 1990s marked a cultural shift away from polished stadium aesthetics toward rawer, more introspective sounds. Artists who once defined mainstream identity found themselves reclassified as legacy acts. That label carries respect, but also separation. It signals influence rather than immediacy. For Rod Stewart, this transition did not end relevance, but it changed its nature. Rather than competing for cultural center stage, he moved into spaces that valued reinterpretation, nostalgia, and endurance. The American Songbook phase reflected this repositioning clearly. It was not about chasing youth-driven trends, but about embracing material that existed outside the competition of contemporary charts. In doing so, he secured a different kind of audience, one that valued familiarity and timelessness. Yet beneath that success remains a subtle reality. Cultural centrality is temporary. Even for artists who remain active, the spotlight shifts elsewhere, and what remains is the challenge of continuing without it. Legacy, identity, and the question of why continue. At a certain point in a long career, achievement stops being the driving force, and identity becomes the central question. Rod Stewart's legacy is already established in commercial success, influence, and longevity. The catalog exists independently of current output, and recognition has been formalized through awards and honors. Yet legacy does not answer the personal question of continuation. Why keep performing when the milestones are already secured? The answer lies less in ambition and more in identity structure. For performers who have spent decades connecting with audiences, the stage becomes less a place of validation and more a place of existence. Outside it, time feels less defined. Inside it, there is structure, response, and feedback. The tension between aging and performing is not unique to him, but his scale makes it visible. Every return to the stage becomes both celebration and negotiation with time itself. What audiences see as continuation is, for the performer, a daily recalibration of purpose in a body that no longer operates with youthful certainty. The final illusion of permanence in a temporary art music creates the illusion of permanence. Recordings freeze voices at specific ages, preserving energy that no longer matches the present moment of the performer. For Rod Stewart, that illusion has stretched across decades, allowing multiple versions of himself to coexist simultaneously. The young breakthrough artist, the stadium icon, the reinvention phase, and the aging performer still touring. Audiences move between these versions depending on which songs are playing, but the artist experiences only the present version. That gap between memory and reality becomes more pronounced with age. Performing later in life is not just about sustaining ability, it is about reconciling past and present selves in real time. Every stage appearance becomes a dialogue between who he was and who he is now. The conclusion of such a career is not defined by a single final performance but by gradual transition, where repetition eventually gives way to stillness. And when that happens, what remains is not disappearance but echo, recordings, memories, and influence that continue without requiring presence.